It would bounce way more than once, probably up to 4 times before the bouncing would stop.
The voice of the customer.
I'm here today with Scott Fox, who has been a really good customer of ours for quite a while. And Scott actually has a blog post, which if you're not subscribed, definitely recommend that. We'll talk a little more about that later. Now you're here today, Scott, for some warranty work on your motorhome, where we're replacing some airbags for you. Is that right? Doing some other work?
Airbags, and had a small, minute leak in one of my airbags. But if that doesn't inflate, we don't go anywhere.
Pretty important, yeah. Doing some steering work too, right?
Steering box and what do you call it? A drag link?
Drag link, yeah. So Scott has the Rayco 1460 front suspension on his Tiffin Powerglide coach, and the main thing we want to talk about in this video actually is the shocks for that front suspension. So we tested out a prototype set of Konis for the front of this coach, the 99B-3234 SP1s. And about how long ago now was that we put those on?
It was 1 year.
1 year, wow, okay. Now previously you had the old manual adjust Konis.
Correct.
We asked you here, you'd been complaining about porpoising for a while. We made some changes in the past, right, to try to address that?
Well, originally we had some porpoising problems, and it's because the shock absorbers on the coach were too soft, and they were set at a soft setting. And then out on the highway, Tommy crawled underneath the RV and adjusted them up to maximum. And we still felt they were still a little bit too soft. And shock absorbers, why don't you describe what a shock absorber does?
Sure, yeah. So if you'd like, we can actually show them to you on the coach here. So right here, these are the new Konis. So there is the shock. So what this does basically is control movement in this suspension. So if you didn't have shocks, you'd be bouncing all over the place, be moving like crazy. The shocks help provide that control and stability. Now, as I said, this is a Rayco 1460 IFS front suspension. So it is IFS independent front suspension. And independent front suspension, as we talked about that in another video, or we will talk about that in another video. But IFS is a significant challenge for shocks because your shock is mounted inboard of the wheel. So your wheel may be moving up and down this much, but your shock is only moving, some percentage of how much your wheels are actually moving. And what that means is it's difficult to get a shock that's strong enough to control that movement, that bounce, but still not too strong where you get too harsh of a ride. So we've been selling the 99B-3234 Koni Evos for some time now, and we felt that they were a pretty good advantage in ride quality. But for actual control, the ones that Scott had, the old manual adjust Konis, which have since been discontinued, those actually had a bit of an advantage in control. As Scott said, we cranked his down to the max, and it made a pretty good difference, but you still got some of that porpoising and bounce, right? It was better, but not all the way.
Correct. And last year, we went to Alaska, and anybody who knows about the roads in Alaska, they can be difficult, and every year the weather tears the roads up. Mm-hmm. So on the way north up through Alaska, I think I sent an email to Tommy and said, okay, when we come back from Alaska, we need to fix this somehow. Because once you get off into the bumps in Alaska, and caused by frost heaves, they set up a vibration or a porpoising, and I'll let you describe porpoising, that will last quite a long time. And that's exactly what shock absorbers are intended to prevent, is this multiple bounce function that happens on the inside of any car or RV. And it would bounce way more than once, probably up to 4 times before the bouncing would stop. So we were kind of unhappy customers at that point in time. But we're way happier now that we have these new prototype shocks. We've gone for a year with them. We've gone back up into Canada. Actually took a cruise ship to Alaska. So
took the easy route.
No bumpy roads there. And we went up to Canada. We're back here 1 year after the installation, and the shocks are still doing. It was a night and day difference.
And speaking of your trip to Alaska, for our viewers who are interested in reading more about that, Scott and his wife put out a really detailed blog, right? Where can they find you guys?
Well, the blog name is foxrvtravel.com, and we put out a weekly free blog. We don't charge people, nor do we take a cut on any work that gets done. but we just try to help people out. And well, maybe it's 50% bragging and 50% trying to help people. I just know that my ride quality has improved tremendously with the new shock that the old shock couldn't do.
Yeah, and still with, it controls the porpoising, which for those of our viewers who don't know, porpoising is when the front of the coach goes down, the back goes up, and the same kind of thing in reverse. So you're sitting in the driver's seat, you hit one bump that gets it started, and then you just feel like you're doing this. It's pretty irritating, right?
It's actually a lack of control too.
Yeah.
When you're in the upswing, the tires are not biting the ground nearly as much as they are on the downswing.
So again, Scott, we're really thankful that you gave us the opportunity to test out these prototypes on your coach. It was really helpful, especially knowing all your background and how you can pay attention to those differences. And just again, what would you summarize as being the main differences you noticed before and after?
Well, the biggest difference is these new shocks work, I think, like they're designed to work, and we're very happy with them. And we no longer have that lack of control feeling going over bumps. I don't think we porpoise hardly at all anymore. I think the shock absorbers indeed stop the extra movements. But before we had lots of extra movements. They were better when they were tightened, when you tighten them up, but they were not as good as I wanted, and that's why we came back after our trip to Alaska. We've been driving on them now for a whole year, and I think they're wonderful.
Again, Scott, thank you very much for letting us have the opportunity to test these out on your coach. We really appreciate that. And a big reason for us making this video is to let you know now that these shocks are available in production. So if you have one of the models listed on the screen, they are available for you today. That's, again, the 99B-3234 SP1s. So thank you again. Definitely encourage anybody to check out Scott's page for his blog. Again, what is that, Scott?
It's foxrvtravel.com.
foxrvtravel.com. Lots of great stories on there, great content about, did some work on the solar on your coach, lots of travel pictures there. So really appreciate you guys coming in, and appreciate your business. And for any of you who have any questions about these shocks, we encourage you to give us a call, 888-898-3281. You can also email us at sales@supersteerparts.com. And until next time, we wish you safer and happier driving. Thank you.